Amazing grace, how sweet the sound, oh, that saved a wretch like me.
Welcome to Built on Faith Homestead. What you're going to see in this video is what I'm calling the goat shelter of many colors. Come along with us and you can watch this goat shelter of many colors being put together. In case you're wondering where I'm getting at, right? If you don't know, Joseph and the coat of many colors from the Bible. This is the goat shelter of many colors. Not nearly as beautiful, I'm sure, as Joseph's coat. But tag along with us today and we will show you guys how we built a nice little goat shelter to plan ahead for getting our goats. Come along. So the other day, as you can tell from the scrap lumber here, I cut a whole bunch of the boards to start building the walls on the goat shelter. Also, I cut my runners. These are just 4x4 posts, treated posts, and they've got a 45-degree angle. I don't know if you can see that down there. Yeah, 45-degree angle that I cut on them to help them slide a little bit better across the ground. And I'm just going to I'm going to build the walls and stand the walls up, nail the walls together today, and then stand the walls up and start putting this thing together. We built this shelter. It's going to be 5 foot wide. Outside dimensions are going to be 5 foot by 10 foot. And the reason why we went with that size is because of that little trailer over there. If it is that we can ever move said tiny house to a piece of property one of these days, good Lord willing, I want to be able to move this shelter with us. I don't want to have to rebuild it in a year or two if we find a piece of land with pretty relatively quickly to move to. I don't want to have to rebuild this shelter, right? And I want to be able to take this with me. This is the trailer I have available to me, and it is 5 foot wide by 10 foot long. And so on the inside of that trailer, so this will slide up into that trailer, and we can move it whenever we go to move on to a new property one of these days. That's why I'm building it 5 by 10. And so just a 5 by 10 shelter be plenty big for the goats that we're going to have. Give us a little bit of room to grow in the future. And if we don't use it for goats later, I'm sure we'll find another use for it. But here is our little 5 by 10 building getting started here. And I know lumber is still really, really high, so I'm trying to cheat where I can. I got extra lumber to continue working that way in case I want more lumber for this project. I can use it, but I'm going to put stuff like 2 foot on centers and that kind of stuff just to try to conserve a little bit of lumber as we build this. So this is it so far, guys. And like I said, we will get back to work on this. We'll show you some more steps. Nothing too complicated. The only thing I will say is we have a lot of wind here, so I'm trying to keep this thing as low as possible. I don't want to get it too tall, but I still want to be able to stand up in it, walk in it, and stay stood up and do what I want to. Now, thankfully, these are 4 inches high, and I'm only about, I'm like 6'1" without any boots on, so, all right, 6'2" maybe, with boots on, 6'3", at the very most with brand new boots. We can be able to, I want to be able to walk in here standing up. So with a 4-inch base plus a bottom plate on that 2x4, we don't have to get these studs very tall at all so that I can walk in it. I think these are 5'10", remembering that there is a 4x4 that's going to be setting on and a bottom plate that's going to bring it up just a little bit more, and then that top plate will sit on top of it. That gives me plenty of room to be able to stand up in here. I may have to crouch at the very back of it just a little bit or bend my head down, but that'll be just fine. I think if I'm remembering right, I'm 5'10" on these studs and I'm 5'6" on these studs. So we've got a little bit of drop from top to bottom just to help the runoff. And we will, like I said, build these walls and go from there. Alright guys, so we've made a little progress on the goat shelter. That's some of the things we had to do. Had to break away for a little while. But we are back now. And I'll just show you kind of what we've got here. And we'll go from there. So, what we have on the goat shelter is the framework is up. This is right before we put tin on it, right before we put the metal on it. Part of the reason I want to show you guys this video is because this little goat shelter is by no means perfect, not even close. I could have took the time to think through and measure more and do some things differently. But for something like this, I knew it wouldn't be a big deal if I just kind of rolled with the punches, if you will. And so that's kind of what I did. But we'll show you guys just a few things that I did do. We got angle bracing down here at the bottom because there'll be chains ran around this bottom plate here. There'll be chains wrapped around it, and that one over there to pull this goat shelter around in the field. So we angle braced it here. Also did the same thing up here just to add a little extra stability as we go. My tin I'm going to run horizontally across here, so the tin will actually be sideways compared to how it usually is. And that's to give it horizontal support, because right now, if you watch, even with all this, right, I can side to side, I can move this because it's got no bracing going this direction, right? And so I think I'll do that with the tin rather than waste the boards. I think I'll just do that with the tin, and I think I'll just run it sideways. I think it'll work just fine. If you have like zero building experience, like you've never cut boards and nailed them together, a little goat shelter or chicken coop or something like that is a good thing to cut your teeth on, because it doesn't have to be perfect. You can get by with a lot of mistakes. You can get by with things not being exactly right, and I'll show you a couple of those things like I did that are not exactly right. First of all, my roof rafters, right, they should be turned up on edge, because the boards they're a lot easier to bow in the center if they're flat like this. Would have been better probably to get some joist hangers and go from that top plate down to the stud running there, and then ran these on edge, and then ran my tin on top of that. That would have been better. This was cheaper for me to do today, faster for me to do today, and it's going to be just fine, guys. This is a goat shelter. I'm spanning all of 5 feet on the inside of here, right? So this will be just fine. I actually thought about not doing these at all, and just laying my tin across there and letting it go from this board here over to this board here. But that was enough that I thought there'd be a little bit of bow if we got any snow at all, so we didn't do that. Also, I'll show you my 2x4s studs are not lined up. So this stud is not exactly lined up with that stud on the back wall. Front wall stud not exactly lined up, right? Which makes my rafters not exactly lined up over a stud. In a perfect world, that's what you want. You want this, actually, you want a stud underneath your rafters, right? But I didn't take the time to make those measurements and to make sure I was even on both sides and all that, and to splice this door in evenly. I didn't do that. Not because I can't or not able to, but because I knew it really wouldn't matter on this goat shelter. I knew it wouldn't cause us a problem in the long run. This thing's going to last a long, long time, just like it is. It's not a house. It don't have to be built to code. It don't have to be built perfect. All it's got to do is to keep some of the wind and the rain off of some goats. And so I didn't take the time to do that, right? I just worked my way down through, kind of had an idea of what I knew I wanted to do on the front for the door, got that fitted, measured it along the back, did what I needed to along the back wall just to keep them studs evenly spaced down through there, and called it good, guys, because it didn't have to be perfect, and I knew it didn't have to be perfect, and it'd be okay. So that's really all that we've got done. We got all the framing done, and now we are going to put the tin on. Once again, guys, a little goat shelter or chicken coop, rabbit hutch, if you have zero experience in building, it is a good way to get started learning, because it can be wrong. It can be messed up a little bit. You can have things off just a little bit, and at the end of the day, as long as it still does what you need it to, it'll be okay, right? And it will help you for the next time you go to take on a bigger project to get things right. It'll help you to think about, man, whenever I built that chicken coop, I didn't take the time to line my studs up to make sure that my rafters was going to fall right on my stud walls, and I didn't make sure that I was going to do that, so this time I want to take the time to make those measurements to do it right when I'm doing this bigger project or whatever, right? It will help you build that confidence level as you go doing these little projects like this. So not only does rabbits and chickens and goats and those kinds of things help feed your family, but they also help you gain experience, because like I said, at the end of the day, if this keeps most of the wind and some of the rain off of these goats, it is a success. It is what we were looking for. And so don't be afraid to do stuff like this to help you learn how to do things bigger in the long run. Like I wish I'd done more videos on working on the tiny house. I was so busy working, right? But we actually took the time, right, to make sure everything was lined up where it needed to be lined up. And I didn't do much of the framework. I framed out the bedroom and bathroom, but everything else was already done. But we made sure those were lined up, and we made sure that everything was, done and done proper. I took the time to do that, and if it wasn't, I tore it down and started over, right? And so that is part of it when you're doing things like that. But something like this for a goat shelter, like I said, it don't have to be perfect. It's a good way to hone your skills. It's a good way to start playing around and learning how to nail boards together. Learning, and you're like, well, it's not hard to nail boards together. Okay, well, get you a couple boards and a big old 16 nail, and then go out there and try to nail them together and start learning how to build a structure, right? But it'd be a good thing. And if your kids, right, if you got youngins, man, something like this would be a great little project to let them work on, right? To get their feet wet into doing things like this that maybe they'll never actually need in their life, but they haven't just in case they do. Or maybe, I don't know, even if they're a doctor or a lawyer someday, maybe they'll still want to have goats, and just maybe they'll want to do it themselves. One more important fact when you're out doing this kind of stuff: wife's inside cooking, taking care of 3 kids. I'm out here working. She would like help. I would like help. But we're going to stop working on the goat shelter right now because my wife told me this: our late lunch, early dinner is ready. And let me teach you men a lesson. When sweetheart says dinner's ready, you stop what you're doing, you go eat. Wanted to show you guys as we get the tin on. I don't know if it's coming up on the camera there. I don't know what kind of Wuhan lab monkeypox flies Bill Gates has sent to our house, but there are flies going berserk here tonight. But anyhow, this is kind of what you got going on. Just putting the tin on. Our goat house of many colors is what I'm calling it. As you can see, none of the tin matches, but I can tell you who's not going to care, and that's the goats, nor the owner of the goats. Here's the tin on the back. You can't really tell maybe on the tin on the roof. Yeah, you can. Definitely none of this tin matches, because this is scrap tin we had given to us, and some tin that I have bought, and then some other scrap tin that was given to us. And so we have got our goat house of many colors going on. So while I ponder what the government's doing with all these flies, this is partly a joke, guys. I don't think the government is sending us flies. Although, fun fact, there are people whose name would end in a thing that you can go in and out of for fences. Yeah, there are people like that that are trying to get mosquitoes modified where they can, do all kinds of crazy stuff. Look it up for yourself. Don't take my word for it. But anyhow, his last name starts with one of those. His first name would be what they send you in the mail when you owe some money to somebody. Yeah, look up his what they're trying to do with mosquitoes. It's some interesting stuff. But anyhow, besides the fly plague, this is what we got going on. We got 10 all going. We are getting it all attached and put on. I even ran out of like 10 screws for the tin roof, so I'm just using drywall screws because it'll be fine. It'll stay on there. But we gotta get the front tin put on, and then we'll cut off this excess tin sticking out on the sides. Give the goat shelter of many colors. We will give it a haircut, if you will, and be done with it. But we still gotta get the tin on the front. But I did want to show you guys kind of what we got going on here. Well, everybody, hope you guys are doing well. Mostly finished the goat shelter last night. I had to cut the ends off today, the pieces that were sticking out, just to kind of clean it up a little bit. The goat shelter of many colors. We mowed and weed eated this morning, and then come back to this thing, and I want to show you guys what it looks like here, kind of a finished product type thing. So here it is, the goat shelter of many colors, made from scrap tin that we had just kind of laying around here. It is not going to win any beauty contest, that's for sure. However, it will do what we need it to, I believe. There it is on skids. I did make sure and keep my tin up high enough it shouldn't drag whenever I pull the shelter along. My plan is to have our goats in a electric netting, and I wanted to be able to move them, and so I wanted to be able to move their shelter around as well. Here's the door, plenty big enough for me to walk through and walk in. Of course, it's going to get dark in here, but here's the inside. You guys can tell, like, this is old tin. It's not going to keep them 100% dry, but I reckon it'll be good enough for a goat. Bracing along the bottom. What I'll do is I'll run me a chain in underneath this board that comes across here, and I'll be on the inside triangles of that chain, or of these boards, and I'll bring the chain up, and then I'll go through. I don't know if I can flex the tin out enough that I can fish the chain through there, or if I'll have to cut me a little hole. We'll just see how that goes when the time comes. But and I'll put a little chain at both ends. I don't like using rope or cable with our mobile chicken coops. I learned it's just best just to buy you a little chain. They're not all that much higher. They last longer. You don't have to worry about it. So, and they're plenty strong. So we got that. If you guys remember, right, I put my tin on a horizontal, which, I mean, traditionally it ought to be vertically. But I put it horizontally because I didn't want to put the extra boards on. I want to try to save us a little money, but I needed the stability. And if you guys remember earlier in the video, I could flat move it, but now I'm pushing on this thing, man, and I can't make it weeble wobble no matter which way. No matter which way I push on it, it's solid, so it ain't going nowhere. But this ought to be plenty big for our goats. I can get in here and stand up and walk around if I need to come in here and mess with the goat, or if I need to come in here and clean this thing up a little bit or something like that. We have it made. Now, the only other thing we're thinking about doing is building another one very similar to this for our we're wanting dairy goats. So kind of like a little milking barn. And we thought, well, maybe we ought to separate their sleeping, regular, relaxing, whatever shelter from their milking barn to keep the milking one a little bit cleaner. Keep it closed off where they can't just get into it without us opening some doors. But I don't know. The more we've kind of talked about it, I don't know if we'll end up converting part of this into milking, or if we'll probably build another one. It's probably what we're going to do. But there it is, guys. It is no professional build, that's for sure. But it will keep the weather off the animals and do what it is we want it to do. And I believe it'll work just fine for that for years to come. And so I'm excited. This is one step closer to gaining some more independence for us, to not having to buy milk at the grocery store, to knowing where our milk comes from and how the animals were fed that gets the milk. And one more way that we will start learning and teaching our children also how to be a little bit more self-sufficient, and I'm looking forward to that. But remember, guys, as I said earlier in the video, if you don't have any building experience at all, you've never done anything like this whatsoever, something like this, man, that's a great way to get started. Because it don't have to be perfect, it just has to work, right? And so that, rabbit hutches, chicken coops, something like that. Appreciate you guys for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, share our videos, and we will catch you next time.